Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, the turn of the new year is often a trigger point for many people that want to change their path in life. For some, this may signal a new job or career, while others may take the plunge and enter the world of self-employment. Regardless of which path is chosen, my first guest, Brendan Fitzpatrick from Restart Journey, has a process which he believes can help people to reach these goals. Brendan, in your own life, you've needed to restart and find your way in the world of self-employment. But before we get to that juncture, talk to us about your early career.
Okay, Carol, well, my career started sort of towards the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s, and I found a job in the pharmaceutical medical device industry with a multinational, and I pretty much stayed there for well over 30 years, changed a few roles along the way, but it was quite successful, always developing, dealt with basically companies all over the world, whether they be suppliers or customers, dealt in quality management systems, highly regulated, really enjoyable time of my life. And to be honest, I probably would have stayed there forever if redundancy hadn't happened. That was a real shock to the system, and it did happen.
So what steps did you take to turn your life around at that stage?
Well, the first part of the call was to try to find work, which became very, very difficult. Eventually, I said, I'm going to have to do something myself. And some people gave me advice on listen, try to get some work for yourself. But to be honest, I never had any aspirations that way, and I didn't really know what the first thing I should do was. And then other people would be advising on, look, you have to have a unique product or service, and this sort of scared me. I didn't feel I had something. In other words, I didn't really value the experience that I did have. But in actual fact, I had an awful lot of skills to bring to the table, which I wasn't aware of later on. So the obvious thing I did was to try to start a consultancy business where I brought all the supply chain management, operational skills at a global level to the table, which would have included, for example, the whole quality management systems and ERP systems for multinationals. And that's where I felt I could bring most value. So I started business, my first business, Global Supply Chain Solutions, and I done pretty well in the first few years of that. It still exists today, but it really is there to help multinationals, and mainly within the pharma sector. So it was almost a continuation of what I'd done previously when I was working for the multinationals.
One of the other things you did at that time as well is your return to education.
I was one of these people that really felt I had to have all the boxes ticked even before I took the leap of faith to start my own business. And one of those involved, for example, doing a postgraduate in UCD in the Innovation Academy on innovation, entrepreneurship and enterprise. And I have to say, that was probably the biggest impact that had on me personally, because not only did it give me these entrepreneurial skills and these contacts, but it gave me an awful lot more confidence and certainty of what I wanted to do. And I had a lot of support from within, not only within the college, but also with the students, peers within the class and so on. And I really enjoyed that. It was very successful there. And that gave me really good impetus to move forward, which I did. The other thing as well, which I realised, was that a lot of the students were coming to me for advice, not for asking me what I thought of their business ideas. And a lot of them would ask, for example, also, how do I get a job? If I get a job, how can I best market myself? Things that I wasn't expected to be asked on the program or even to be asked for somebody else. But I found I had a good understanding and feel for how to guide people and develop people and make them successful, whether that be to explore self-employment or whether that be to find a job that you want. I've had a lot of experience to bring to the table, which to be honest, I underestimated when I was made redundant. And it started to come together what I was really looking for going forward in the future.
And is that ultimately what triggered the idea to establish Restart Journey?
It did indeed. Now, the first thing that happened after I actually started a company called Startup Journey. And the reason I started Journey was to help people to actually start businesses and grow businesses. So it was very much focused on, the entrepreneurial ideas for people. But as I was going through that process, I realised that not everybody wants to start a business, and not everybody wants to stay in a business once they've started it. So I was thinking about a couple of different names and who I should aim for. I took a few iterations, to be honest. But eventually I said, okay, Restart Journey is what it should be, because Restart Journey, in my opinion, people restart their journeys at lots of times throughout their careers. And this was my restart in my journey, but probably the third or fourth time. And it's, as well as that, it applies to people wanting to start a business, wanting to explore self-employment and start a business, or even to find a job or completely transition their career. So many people actually have a career that they fell into from university, never really liked it, and then they always wanted to change to something else, but didn't have the confidence or wherewithal or know how to do it. But it also helped them. It also helped people that were made redundant and needed to restart again. Maybe their niche job had gone and they needed some guidance on how to find another particular career. And even people, for example, that are coming to retirement. Some of my clients are people that are retiring this year and next year, and they don't want to stop. They want to do something else. So it covers all the various elements of people who whether work for themselves or work for somebody else and how best to achieve that.
And of course, January is often the time of the year when people want to make a change in their lives. But for those people who are not sure exactly what change they want to make, what advice have you got for them?
Well, there's so many people come to me from different ends of the scale. And I'll give an example of a couple which would probably highlight this. Some people come and they basically, they've been made redundant, so they want to get a job. That's very straightforward. Okay, how do I get a job? What type of skills do I have? What type of transferable skills? What value do I bring? It's all about the value that you bring. Whether you're trying to find a job or find a client, it's all about the value that you bring. And you must understand that. You must understand what the other party wants and needs and how you can be that solution. And I'm actually working on a book at the moment, an entrepreneurial view to actually finding employment or finding a job. For me, they're very, very similar. You've got to understand the value to bring and bring that solution to an employer to work for or an employer to provide a service for. So in situations where someone comes and wants a job, we will work on that. Some people come and they want a job or they want to change job, but they don't want the same type of role again. They want something that they're going to enjoy doing, that they can bring value to and develop within that. Same skills are used, but there's a different outcome required at the end of that. And then some people are looking to basically get out of working for somebody else and try to be self-sufficient for themselves. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they want to grow a big multinational company or they want to be on the NASDAQ. They just want to be self-sufficient and provide for themselves and have control over their own destiny and have a proper work-life balance. So the same skills are applied, the same analysis is done. The skills that you have to bring to the table, who could your potential customers be? Why should you hire you? Could you make a profit out of this? And how will you get that? Demonstrate that across to a potential suitor, for example. So all different aspects of people looking for different outcomes, but very, very similar criteria is used in terms of the evaluation and then the steps and actions we take going forward.
And for anyone listening to this morning's programme that's intending on starting a new business in 2025, how should they be planning for this?
Well, the new year is a great time to really have a proper think about this. And a lot of people do think about this in the new year. You tend to think about this in the new year and after a long holiday, you come back and you get depressed and you want to change the situation. But what the real thing you need to evaluate, this is what I help them do. I'm also an executive coach as well and provide leadership training as well. I get them to understand, first of all, what they're hoping to achieve from all this. And depending on what it is, I will ask them, okay, why do you want to achieve this? And what skills do you have to bring to the table? What's the core values and skills that you have that somebody wants? How you to do this? And how would you get those skills and demonstrate them across? Give me examples. So the first thing I do is actually really get my client to develop the insights to really understand the value they bring and why somebody would want to hire them or for them to provide a service, one or the other. And then how do you get that across? And how they actually understand, say, for example, using the lean canvas, how they can actually provide this service, for example, for the profit, so it's not just a hobby. Once they have their confidence and they understand the value they bring, then it's a case of actually deciding on the actions to take. For someone for a job or a career transition, it's a case of updating their CV so it reflects the value they bring, updating the LinkedIn profile, and innovating, you go after opportunities that don't necessarily be advertised. For example, 75% of jobs do not get advertised, so you've got to be more innovative when looking for opportunities, and there's ways we can do that. And if you're looking for employment, going through the whole, say, lean canvas, what your revenue streams are going to be, what your cost structure is going to be, what your unique selling point will be. Networking is the key part of all that. One of the strengths I bring to the table is that I have a vast network of contacts. I'm very, very happy to use that network to ask for advice from myself, from my clients, and for introductions and so on. And they're right across all different sectors. And that works really, really well. But the key advice I would give is that you've got to understand the value that you bring. You've got to understand the customer, what they really require. And then you've got to get that across, and you have to use your networking, I call building relationships, effective relationships, to get that message across, create opportunities for yourself. And networking, which is I think is the key part of all this, isn't about just what the other person can do for you. It's equally about what you can do for them. So you need to be generous with your time. You need to be offering help and support, and that gets reciprocated. And it comes back in spades, to be honest, and you get opportunities.
Brendan, from your experience, what are the typical mistakes that people make when starting out?
Probably the first thing is having unrealistic expectations. I don't really like saying that because I would never dampen somebody's expectations. But you have to have expectations, but not be too stubborn about it. For example, you must listen to advice. If somebody else doesn't understand your business or you can't answer the questions they're asking, then be open to say, well, if they can't understand what I'm explaining, it mustn't be that straightforward. I need to make it more straightforward. And you need to be flexible because in all businesses, my business, I'm sure businesses you've been involved in the past, Karl, things never work out with exactly as you plan. You've got to be open to listening and learn change. You've got to be open to change and innovation. I would always say, if you're not prepared to change, you don't just stand still. You go backwards because everybody else has been innovative and changing. So you've got to listen to advice. And sometimes that means you may have a really good business idea, but for example, your customer expectations are unrealistic, and you've got to pivot towards certain customers, and you've got to pivot towards the opportunities that are there for certain services or products you have to provide. But you have to listen, and to listen, you've got to be talking to people. You've got to be talking to the right people who can give you really sound advice, and you've got to just get your customer feedback and so on. And then you must respond to that. I mean, there's no point in closing your ears, just being too stubborn. You've got to keep moving and making progress all the time.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Brendan Fitzpatrick from Restart Journey, and Brendan's advice could certainly help any of our listeners who are considering a change of direction in 2025.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.